Welcome, everyone. My name is Kishana Peck, and I'm the CEO of Toronto Women X in Data Science. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your Thursday evening with us as we explore data careers at RBC. So, we have an expert panel coming up and some networking to look forward to as well. We just got a sneak peek of one of the experts. Um, but I'm going to go over some housekeeping items to start. Of course, and you're going to have to spend a little bit more time with me at the beginning as I do opening remarks. So, first of all, if you want to stay up to date with employment opportunities and initiatives in technology at RBC, there's a QR code that you may see at the side of the screen. It's also on all of the slides that I have here. And by scanning the QR code, you'll actually be entered into a contest to win a $25 gift card. So I unfortunately can't win the gift card, but if I was you, it's a quick questionnaire. I would fill it out. On the left-hand side, you'll see your profile photo or initials. So what you can do there is if you click on it, you can update your information to make it easier for others to connect with you. You can also add information like your Instagram, your GitHub, your Twitter, and your LinkedIn. So when you hover over different attendees' profiles, you'll be able to get that contact information, which is really helpful when you're doing networking as well. Below that, we have the chat. So please be respectful. If we see any comments or questions that violate our community values, you'll be shadow banned, unfortunately, and you risk being removed from the event. Where you're going to put all of your questions for the panelists are under the question mark that is directly below the chat button. So this is where I'll look for audience questions if time permits. And below that, we have our agenda. So if you want to keep track of the flow of the evening, that's where you'll be able to find that information. If you experience any technical difficulties, please consult the help icon on the left-hand side of the screen. It's an interesting icon. It looks like a wheel with 4 different lines going through it in different directions. If all fails, refresh your browser, and if that fails, you can send us an email. And on the bottom of the screen, it asks if you want to join the audience gallery. So this is a way to cheer on the panelists as they speak by video only. It doesn't pick up your audio at all. And then links to the topics that I'm going to discuss and that I'll discuss with the panelists. The Toronto Women X and Data Science team are going to take great care to add those links in the chat so you don't miss a thing. So before we dive in, I wanted to tell you more about what we've been up to and what you can look forward to in the next few months. That's me on a different day. So I don't know who's changing my slides. So our vision at Toronto Women X in Data Science is to empower 1 million data literate women, increase the recruitment and retention of women in data roles, and also to influence inclusive innovation. So we provide programming that celebrates women in data and educates those interested in the field. We've been in operation since 2018, and we've ran sold out conferences and events in order to educate and celebrate the future of data science. So we believe in a few things. So we believe that anyone can become data lit, including you, especially since you're here. You probably already have some data literacy skills. In partnering with organizations where women can thrive, RBC is definitely a champion of that for us. And that more women should be the creators, not just the consumers of data products. So here are some things that you can interact with that our team has built. So we have a resource hub. So this space houses valuable content to learn about data science, hear from leading experts, and share educational materials. So we have easy to read digestible study guides that break down data science related books, our Data Drop podcast, and videos from our event. And more resources are to come. The next item that's up is our Data Drop podcast. So initially, we built it to inform youth about the fantastic learning and career opportunities in data science. However, what we're seeing is that it's more adults that are listening in, maybe those transitioning careers. And we actually have an episode from Claudia Cabas, who's a director of data architecture for Canada at RBC, on using AI in data profiling and quality control. So You can check out that episode. And we also have an upcoming episode with the interim head of Borealis AI, Alex Laplante. And the talk will be focused on the skills and opportunities available to a data/AI translator. So these are people who are the bridge between the technical and the business teams. So it's a really interesting space. So look out for that one. I'm also the innovator in residence for the Toronto Public Library. So I've gotten the chance to build different library programs, which they're all free, but I'm only doing this until December 10th. So if you're interested in that, I have a few sessions left, and they're all virtual as well. What could you commit to for 100 days? So this year, we partnered with DataQuest, the #1 rated browser-based self-directed data science learning platform, for our 100 Days of Code challenge to build a data literacy practice for women and girls. So the challenge ran from March 1st to June 9th this year, and dates are actually TBD for 2023. So DataQuest provided the participants with 3 months of free access to learn from their full suite of data science courses and paths. So there were people who did not know how to code at all that went through paths for data analysts, data scientists, data engineer, and some of them are even feeling courageous enough now to secure their first role in data science. We have our job board and our talent network. So we listed open roles from our partners on our job board. So RBC and Borealis AI roles are there if you want to take a peek before the open networking session to discuss them if you are lucky enough to get matched with a recruiter. I see some of them sprinkled in the audience. So if I was you, I would do the prep before, just so you can speak about some of those roles that you might be interested in. But not to fear, during the networking, we do have some prompts for you to speak about yourself and what some of your career goals are. If you've ever attended a networking event but missed the opportunity to follow up on a good connection, if you're interested in learning about new opportunities from a curated selection of the best companies with data roles, and you want exclusive access to recruiters at your fingertips, we have our talent network that we just launched, and we're starting to build up the mass of people who are in there in order to curate some networking that can be ongoing. So it's not just event based. How many of you have actually negotiated your next role? We have a session with 81 cents in order to give you the tools, information, and data you need to negotiate your next offer more confidently. We'll cover things like understanding the fundamentals of compensation, getting over your fears of negotiation, how to decide which company and offer is right for you, how to avoid having an offer rescinded, and how to negotiate a deadline on an offer. So these are all topics that I wish I had someone who is an expert teaching me. So I definitely think it's a resource and a session that you should attend. And last but not least, our 2023 conference. So we'll be back in person next year for our 6th annual conference and awards. Our call for speakers is actually open right now, so you can put your hat in the ring. We're inviting women from across data science to apply. There's topics in data ethics, technical topics, and business are usually what we accept. You'll become a part of a growing community of experts who have committed with us to educate 1 million data literate women. If you don't feel like applying and you know someone else who would be a great fit, send them to us. And if you have a wish list speaker, put it in the chat and we'll take a look. We'll see what we can do. The conference tickets are also up and available, and the early bird tickets are available until January 16th. Of course, it's before we have the speakers lined up, so it's more like taking a bet on us to continue our track record of delivering fantastic content and experiences at our conference. So let me know if you're ready to get started. So I know that you actually want to get started. I need some RBC. I need some of the RBC icons because these ones were custom made by our team for our special guests. Okay, perfect. I love to see it. Um, we have three amazing leaders from RBC and Borealis AI to give you the inside scoop on how their teams are applying imagination and insight to cutting edge technology to create products, services, and solutions that lead to better experiences for their clients, colleagues, and communities. So please give them a warm welcome as I introduce them to the stage. So first, I have Kerry Khoo-Fazari, Senior Director, Data Science and Engineering at RBC. Kerry heads the data science and engineering team within the Chief Data Office. She comes with 20 years of experience in data science in banking. She has a PhD in engineering and from the University of Toronto. And prior to RBC, she was at CIBC in decision science, retail banking, and at TD US in client analytics prior to CIBC. In her spare time, she's an avid cyclist and plays the piano, violin, and flute from time to time. She used to play the violin with the Chamber String Orchestra at Hart House, U of T. Let's welcome Kerry to the stage.
Hi, everyone.
Kerry.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you again, Kerry.
Yes. Nice to meet everyone online. So, looking forward to a great session.
Same. Our next expert is Isabel White. She's the Director of Data Analytics and Engineering. Isabel leads a team of data analysts, data scientists, and engineers within personal and commercial banking. Prior to her current role, she was a data scientist working in digital marketing and insights. Before joining RBC, she worked in data roles across a number of different areas, including government, scientific research, the energy sector, and in academic earth sciences. She holds a bachelor degree in physics and political science from the University of Toronto and a Master of Science degree in geophysics from the Colorado School of Mines. Let's welcome Isabel to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see so many people here. Thanks for having me. Excited for the session.
Thanks for joining us. And last but not least, we have Hanieh Bastani, who is a machine learning engineering lead at Borealis AI. Hanieh has been a passionate software engineer for over 10 years, working in diverse applications from finance to security and authentication to green energy. So we have some green energy people on the panel. She has worked at every level of the software stack. What consistently motivates her is a good challenging problem, a whiteboard, and amazing colleagues to brainstorm with. When she's not working, she's keeping up with her endlessly energetic toddler. Let's welcome Hanieh to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here with you all.
Happy to have you, and I love the royal blue. It's definitely fitting.
Thank you. We all wore a bit of blue, so.
Yeah.
Except for me, I'm in a gray, neutral.
It's like grayish blue with the lighting, I think. Okay, so I do have a list of questions that we're going to go through. The first one, I know I gave your bio, which was great, but would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your career journey? We can start with Kerry.
Of course. So, how did I start? Actually, got my first degree at Schulich School of Business and Bachelor of Business Administration, and decided to major in marketing of all things, right? So I started off in market research, traveled to different countries doing research, quantitative, qualitative. I was a focus group moderator and also designed questionnaires that were omnibus nationwide surveys. And didn't like living out of a suitcase, so I decided to go back to school, did my master's in statistics at U of T, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. So at that time, I got a scholarship, a bursary to continue into the PhD program. So I thought, you know what? I don't know what to do with my life. So I'll just stay in school. So that's how I ended up with a PhD. It wasn't planned, it wasn't my intent. I just got lazy. So I stayed in school and finished my PhD in 4 years. And then had no intention to get into financial services. Really didn't know where I wanted to end up. And a friend came to me and he asked if I could help him navigate the career center at U of T. He wanted to apply for a job and didn't really know how to do it. So I sat down with him. I just pulled my old resume and dropped it in some advertising agency known as Cosette Communication. So I dropped it in there, and before you knew it, they hired me. So I was doing my PhD and in Cosette as a senior statistician. And then CIBC came along. They were looking for a statistician, so that's how I got pulled into CIBC after 1 year at Cosette. And then RBC came along and they were poaching from CIBC at that time. So I ended up at RBC, and then 3 years later, TD comes along and felt like, RBC would be the best place to hire data scientists. So I got pulled into TD US. And then after about 3 years, I decided, you know what, I like CIBC. I'm going back to CIBC. That's it. So I went back, spent a few years there, and then Headhunter called and ended up at RBC again. So that's how I'm here today.
I love the story, and I love like you not being scared to jump from competitor to competitor, and also like finding your home back with RBC. I love that.
Yeah, it was an interesting journey, to say the least.
Isabel, do you want to tell us about your story? Because I really want to understand how the mines got into play.
Yeah, I kind of have a little bit of a non-linear story like Kerry as well. Yeah, so I studied physics and political science at U of T, and actually, yeah, didn't really know exactly what I was going to do when I graduated either, and thought I might go to law school, which I'm glad I didn't, but no offense to the lawyers, just not for me. So I ended up actually getting on a group who went to do some geophysics field work in New Brunswick. It was just like camping, trekking around in the woods for a summer, and it was super fun. Got into geophysics and data from that, and so went to grad school back in the States. So I'm from the States originally, and so went to Colorado, did some grad school there, and then worked in the energy field as a geophysicist for a while, and then I also worked for the U.S. Geological Survey, doing like earthquake research. So that was kind of my stint with the government, and which was very interesting. Like earthquakes are super interesting, but wasn't quite the pace I was looking for, I suppose. Anybody who probably worked for any kind of government before, it's a little bit of a slower pace. So yeah, I was looking to kind of move back into private industry, and also back to Toronto, which I went to school here and love it here. So moved back here and kind of connected with some old schoolmates and ended up at RBC, and ended up actually just taking kind of an internship for a summer just to sample if I really wanted to do data science, because I was kind of studying, like I was doing geophysics at the time, so I wasn't quite sure what the fit would be. But I guess I kind of realized, like, at the time I was using data to understand rocks, and now I use it to understand like money and people. So it was surprisingly easy transition. And yeah, I really like data science, like the bank. So I was a data scientist for the first 3 years over here, and now for the past year I've been like a director of a data team. So yeah, a little bit all over the place. But yeah, I really like data science now. I think it's found kind of ended up where it made sense.
From rocks to money.
Yeah.
Interesting transition. And Hanieh, you have been across the industry for 10 years in different type of industries and different kind of roles in software engineering. I'd love to hear about your career journey.
Yeah, thanks, Isabel and Kerry. Those were two very inspiring stories. I actually did not start well, if I talk about career journey, let me go all the way back to undergrad. I actually did not start out in computer science. I got my undergrad in filmmaking and animation. And while I was doing, try to do like mock animations, I thought, I wonder how this software works, because we were working on this animation software. And so that kind of took me down the path of, how is software written, how is software designed, and it piqued my interest enough that I decided to switch over to computer science. So I went to University of Toronto and got my master's degree in computer science. Um, After that, I started working in startups, and I think one thing that was very important for my career was to get exposure to different types of work environments, different types of companies. So I kind of built my career around that. Wanted to work at startups, big tech, also just geographical diversity. So I worked in Toronto, and then went to New York, and then went to Silicon Valley. And it was really interesting to experience those kind of local niche markets. Ultimately, Toronto won because I love this city so much. So I came back, and it was kind of luck that Borealis was always on my radar, and I'd always heard of this company doing really amazing, cool things. And then a recruiter from Borealis reached out as I moved back to Canada, and I thought, wow, this must be written in the stars. So I followed that, and here I am now working at Borealis, which is really awesome.
Sometimes things just align. I definitely love how both all of you either came back to Toronto or came back to RBC. So there definitely has to be something special there. What are some clues you had to recognize that you were ready for a leadership role? And what was the process in you securing your first one? So I know in data science, sometimes you might decide that you want to be an individual contributor forever. When did you decide that I want a leadership role? And what were your steps? You can start with Isabel. I'm just mixing things up a little bit. Keep you on your toes.
Sure, yeah. So I guess I've only been in well, I was about to say in a leadership role for a year, but I guess it goes back a little bit further. So um, I ended up actually having, after about a year and a half at the bank, a junior data scientist kind of under me. Um, Initially, just to kind of test the waters a little bit. I guess I wasn't sure, to kind of start with your question, if, a leadership route, tech route, what kind of way I wanted to go. So it's been a little bit of a test the waters, natural progression. So yeah, first just kind of had a junior data scientist. And then really, I think working on different projects, and then starting a project and having it expand and actually grow the project scope, was actually what kind of ended up, with me actually running that project and needing more people essentially, to assist with that. So it was a little bit of a kind of more natural progression, not necessarily me like actively looking out for it, but sort of progressing, a little bit more. Actually, like the team kind of grew, so I kind of grew up with it as well. So it was a little bit of a different route. But yeah, I think right now I like the leadership role, but I also like the technical side. So there's still the two parts that I want to keep doing.
I definitely identify with that because in my last role, it was project based. It was like, oh, I have this project to do, and I started leading this project, and they were like, you need people. So, so that's how it happened for me as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I can definitely see sometimes you just grow into roles like that.
Yeah.
Hanieh, how about you? What clues came up for you when you were like, I'm ready for this step?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think typically leadership starts without the formal title. And for me, it started a while back when I just started mentoring other people on the team, starting with, interns and junior people coming on board to, at some point just helping out other senior engineers. And then beyond mentoring, just started taking a much more active role on the team in terms of, for example, identifying best practices, identifying where our team processes can improve, um, helping managers craft out the roadmap. That's always one big question that managers have to do in terms of like, what is the next thing that we work on? And so at some point, I realized that I'm doing a lot of different facets of leadership just out of interest. And I think it was when I wanted to take on a more formal leadership role, precisely so that I can nurture these skills a lot more. And so one of the things that I love about my role right now at Borealis is that it's kind of like equal parts people management and equal parts hands-on, engineer. So it's great. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. But the people management part was really, when you're mentoring people and you get to see the difference that you're making in their lives. I think that it was kind of at that point that I was like, I do see this in my own career at some point to take this on as a more formal role rather than, just helping out another teammate.
Yeah, I can definitely see some parallels in that, like the mentoring that's involved in people management. I think it's super unique that at Borealis you can be 50-50, um, because usually you have to sacrifice your technical side in order to be a people leader. Kerry, would you like to tell us about your path to leadership?
Sure. So when I first graduated from Schulich School of Business, I spent a year in the market research agency, and I felt that I was ready to take on leadership role. Like every fresh grad, you think you're ready in a year, that you can manage your whole team. So, so I was adamant in following that. Like, I want to be a manager in 12 months. So I got there, but I wasn't ready for it. So what happened was, it didn't quite pan out. The My manager felt that I was ready. Actually, she owned the company, so the CEO. It's a big market research agency that is located in Singapore that branched out to all of Asia. So I ran an office for her in Vietnam. I'm not Vietnamese, by the way, but I did that and wasn't sure how to handle different people in the group. And that's when it fell apart. So leadership role is not something that you should strive after. This is what I learned. It's something that you learn over time. And when people see you as a leader is when you know you're ready to become a leader. But until then, pursuing that, chances are 50-50 you would fail. Because if you're not viewed by your peers, your manager, and your subordinates as a leader, then and then you only have the title. So if you strip away the title, it's worth nothing. So that's what I learned. So over time, I learned about people, learned to, you really have to care about people. To be a good leader, you need to care. I don't care who you are, where you work. If you don't have the empathy and the care for your team, then you should not be a leader. So I went back to being an independent contributor when I started working at COSAT, the banks. And when I moved back to CIBC the second time around, I got a senior manager role because they couldn't afford someone from TD in a lateral move. So I just got automatically bumped up. That's how that leadership role started off again, is because CIBC just couldn't afford paying someone coming from TD without giving them a promotion. And that's where I am today now. I have a large team and with many data scientists with me, whom I love all of them dearly. I know all of them personally. That's it.
Well, that's it. There's a whole bunch of like little nuggets of wisdom in there. That was a lot. Thank you so much for that, Kerry. And that also shows that the path to leadership like isn't linear, and also it's not something to aim for, especially if like people aren't at the center of like what you do or what you want to do. Um, this one's an interesting one. What attracted you to RBC or Borealis? I'm going to start with Kerry because Kerry, it seems like you've been across the map, and I need to know, I need to know what kept you at RBC or what brought you back and is keeping you here.
It was a headhunter who called. It was in the area of technology and operations, in particular AI ops. So artificial intelligence for operations, looking at how the bank functions to prevent incidences from happening, detect, prevent, detect anomalies. So, for example, if your digital banking goes down, we need to detect it before it goes down. So that's what where I was in before, but not in data science. It was in the engineering function. So it sounds interesting, and it's not something that I know how to do. I'm not data engineering is something that's new to me. I learned a lot from the past 8 months in AI ops, and I took on that role without. So I was very clear with the people who were hiring me, the VP, SVP. I said to them that I have no background in data engineering. When you talk about things like S3 buckets, Kafka, Mooksoft, Dynatrace, Elasticsearch, I'm like, what the heck is that, right? I don't know what those things are. So they said, don't worry, come. Nobody here knows what they are anyway. You can join the club. So I came in and really didn't know, like, it was like such a misfit for me. And how I ended up in CDO was I spoke to Rex, and I told him my background, and I told him, you know what, this job that I'm in now, I don't know what I'm doing. So to be completely honest and blunt, I really don't know what I'm doing. And then he said that's the best thing he's ever heard, because he said, you know what, this you are what we need, because you're not right for that role, and I need you for this role. So that's how I ended up here.
It looks like you're able to lead with honesty a lot at RBC. Like it's not scary to say you don't know something, which is very comforting to hear. Um,
I think
definitely.
you have to be honest. You don't want to go into a job pretending to be somebody you are not. So you know, when you go for an interview, make sure that you are honest, because that interview is not just about you, it's also about the other person who's interviewing you. You're both interviewing each other.
Exactly. Hania, I know you recently started at Borealis AI. So besides it being on your wish list, what attracted you to working there?
I think for me, it was really the intersection of machine learning and the financial industry. I think each one of these verticals by themselves are just massive opportunities for growth and really interesting and challenging problems in each one of these industries. And now you take the overlap of both of them. We're trying to solve financial problems through machine learning. That itself was very appealing to me, partly because it's such a large space that I couldn't even wrap my head around. So I really wanted to see, hands on, like what people are doing and how they're approaching these problems. But in addition to that, there were a few other aspects, such as the fact that Borealis is so strong in research. And so you don't find that balance too often in industry, where you have an institution that does research and then they apply that research to real world problems. So that was another really interesting thing that I found, that usually it's one or the other. Usually it's everyone does research, or it's more like, all right, we're going to take proven results and apply them to this problem. But in this case, it's like, well, the problem itself has maybe not been explored as much, and so we need to do research to even try to understand what the problem is. But that research doesn't just end up in research papers and academia. You're actually deploying real problems, real products that affect customers' lives and our clients' lives. So that balance was also really interesting. And one other thing I'd add is just the interview process itself really impressed me with how smart people working here are, and just how humble they are. Like, you can have a conversation with everyone. Like, number of PhDs is so high, and yet at the same time, everyone is so approachable and so friendly to have a conversation with. So yeah, it's never one thing. It's always a combination of a lot of different things. And for me, these were the aspects that really made me interested to join here.
I'm gonna have to make a list for the HR team at Borealis of all the things you mentioned. Share it with them. Let them know they can put in their promotional materials. Um, Isabel, it's your turn. What attracted you back here?
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, I actually resonate a little bit with some of the things Kerry was saying about, not necessarily knowing everything right away. Because yeah, as I mentioned, I was doing geophysics work before this and in earthquake research, which I found really interesting, but somewhat too specialized in a way, like kind of restricting in that sense. So was looking to get into data science and wanted to move back to Toronto, and was speaking to a former classmate who worked at RBC. So financial actually services wasn't really on my mind then, but he worked at RBC and said good things and kind of connected me, and I ended up, you know, they actually took a chance on me as sort of like a co-op to sort of try it out for a summer. I guess they were trying me out. I was trying them out. I guess usually like you do with a co-op. And yeah, when I came in, similar to Kerry described, like I didn't know Python. Like coming in as a data scientist, like I was learning a lot of things. But I think I think it turned out they valued like this completely other perspective that I was bringing and asking questions that people wouldn't normally ask that come from like specific business or data backgrounds. So it was kind of bringing, I guess, a different perspective. And yeah, it was very exciting. I was actually excited by the fact that I didn't really know a lot of the tech stack. It was all kind of new and had to learn on the go, which was very exciting and very fun. And ultimately, like staying here, there's so many different data problems. There's so much data. Yeah, it's I don't know. There's like endless different data problems to tackle, which yeah is very exciting. And yeah, I definitely think yeah, I agree that yeah they still kind of continue to value the fact of people bringing different perspectives. um yeah, so I think that's kind of also part of why I'm staying. There's continues to be more and more like interesting problems to solve, so that's what kind of keeps me motivated or keeps me interested.
yeah, and that's another point for the fact that there's so many different variety of careers that data careers that could be had at RBC as well, like the different problems and the opportunities to switch teams. Maybe if there's a different problem or a project you're interested in,
Yeah.
maybe collaborating cross functionally. Which brings me to my next question about cool projects that you've been able to participate since joining RBC or Borealis AI, or any that you feel like you can speak to.
Yeah, I guess I could just say one collaboration thing, which is cool. Actually, Kerry and I currently collaborating. So there is, yeah, and I've collaborated with Borealis as well in past couple of years. So yeah, there's a lot of cross functional, even though I'm kind of on the business side. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of collaboration going on. But that wasn't really your question. But I guess I can jump in. I guess yeah, I guess I could describe one of the cool projects I worked on a couple of years ago, like early on in like early data scientists. I worked on a project trying to essentially the investments group wanted to be able to better recommend what kind of investing different people would do based on a number of kind of characteristics, and didn't necessarily have like a they kind of wanted to upgrade what they were currently doing. So yeah, I had done some research and yeah, wanted to kind of build a model and it was sort of a vague ask at that point. So, I could kind of take it in whatever direction. So yeah, it was interesting, like early on to try to, um, tackle my first like big modeling project on my own. And, at first I attacked it as trying to do like the most complicated model I could think of. And then, by the end of it, it was more like a less complicated decision tree because, I learned over the course of that, sometimes data scientists get excited about really complicated, sophisticated models, but ultimately the business, their number one thing was like explainability and being able to say like why we got to what we got. And so the simpler ended up being, decision tree kind of style ended up being the best because that's like, it was very interesting to interact directly with the business on it. And kind of understand more what they value and how that interacts and like how you can come to a conclusion of like what data people value and what the business values and like come to like kind of consensus on what makes most sense for a project. Yeah, it was great first experience to kind of learn a lot for not just about data science, but about a lot of other things too.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you went back to not basics, but back to like the core need of like explainability and using
Yeah.
maybe a simpler model like decision trees instead of something more complex.
And that's definitely a common theme I found definitely on the business side. Business like all values explainability and being able to like always understand why we're getting the results we are. So that's it was a great takeaway from an early project. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting project. And I guess a side thing, I was new to moving back to Canada and actually was like also not that familiar with Canadian investing. It's very different from American. So it was an interesting, also got to learn more about the business side in general. So interesting
Yeah, like
project.
developing that like subject matter expertise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hanieh, have you had the chance to work on anything cool yet? I know you're a recent recruit.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's been about 3 months. So I definitely can't take credit for any of the projects, but I have been exposed to a few really cool projects. RBC is, obviously being a financial institution, we have a lot of data, and so the question is always how can you leverage this data, right? So, for example, we have a lot of data on financial markets. These can be, for example, equities, bonds. And one of our projects investigates finding patterns in time series market data. And then once you find these patterns, the question is, what kind of predictions do these patterns enable? So I think that's a really exciting project, really interesting space to be in. Another project is looking at how we transform data at scale for our machine learning pipeline. So we're always looking for ways to improve, well, identify bottlenecks and improve and optimize our pipeline so that when a new project wants to start, they don't need to go through all this sort of glue software work just to bootstrap. And so that's one of the areas that we've determined as an area that can use improvement, which is you have a lot of data, you want to feed it into your machine learning pipeline. What kind of transformations do you need to do on that? So this project investigates how we can just make it easier for developers to specify these transformations. And yeah, if we were to have this conversation in 6 months, I could probably tell you a lot more, but I'll keep it at that for now.
I'm sure I'll tap you for a podcast or something so I can hear about it. Kerry, how about you?
I echo what Isabel said. We're collaborating on a very cool project that I couldn't, wouldn't be able to give you details on, but know that working at RBC, you get a lot of opportunity to work with different teams, even though you're not in the same team. You get to work closely together and get to know each other, and amazing things come out of collaboration. So some of the common projects that we work on are like acquisition or looking at churn. So attrition, client attrition, what causes client attrition? Can we predict it? So that's one. And oftentimes, because we have access to so much data, out of curiosity, I'll do my own projects on the side of my desk. And one of the ones that I did was actually, I wanted to evaluate the value of my property. And because we have a wealth of data, external and internal, mostly external for this case, I developed a model to predict what my property value will be valued at in 12 months. And I knew everybody's property value by the end of it because I was able to infer from the data that I have based on your geography, the neighborhood attributes, the walk scores, and all that stuff, all that great stuff. I can tell you which part of the city would be best for you to invest in today. That's for fun. I did that for fun. So that I can tell you about because it doesn't belong to anybody. But stuff like that, that's what we do.
Interesting version of fun. I feel like you might have a spin-off of a startup or something brewing that you might need to put some extra work into. So I would like to dig a little bit deeper into RBC. So how would you describe your department's work culture and environment? I know all of you come from different departments, so I'm trying to see what the differences are between teams, especially since it's such a big company. Hanieh, can I start with you?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's really stuck out for me is collaborative culture. And so when you're working on super challenging problems, you really need a lot of people with different types of expertise coming together. And that's how you define a team. So on a given team, we might have engineers, we might have researchers, and then we have this role in between, which is a research engineer. We have product managers, we have business people, and all of these people are coming together and working together and supporting each other. And so that's been really interesting for me because previous companies, a team would be defined as a group of engineers working together. And so we always had cross-functional partners. For example, we would work with a product manager, but they would be on the product management team, we would be on the engineering team, and we would collaborate. But at Borealis, it seems that like a team is really at its core very diverse in terms of roles and expertise. So that's been really awesome. And I think you can also find just other amazing factors of like a typical engineering environment, which is everyone's really relaxed in the, we're sort of a hybrid model, so people are starting to go back to the office. Everyone still comes in a hoodie, so it's weird because we're a financial institution, but at the same time, when you go to the engineering corners, it's like this feels like a tech company.
Definitely. Um, Isabel, do you want to let us know what your department's like and what the culture is like there?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience because I always have thought of my team as this interesting kind of like sort of like a little data consultancy within the business because obviously we have bigger data teams on the tech side. But actually, when I started 4 years ago, we were maybe about 10 people, and we actually all sat around this one big like board table and all like kind of worked there. This like little like startup kind of vibe within the bank. And yeah, I would sort of like consult. So it was cool because, yeah, kind of like was just described. There weren't many silos. We would work with all these different business teams and talk to people in marketing, people in the different businesses, people in digital. And yeah, it's like grown. So now my team's, I think about, I don't know, 50 or 100 people across the whole thing. So it's sort of grown a ton in the past few years. So now, yeah, like it's been really fun to kind of have this sort of mini sort of startup growth vibe in a team within the bank. And we kind of like, yeah, been able to collaborate with people kind of all over, yeah, from Borealis, talking to them for the project, or people on the technology side. So yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, you were saying that it's, not just like a pocketed engineering or data team. Sort of there's so much collaboration across that. And even within my team now, there's, people that do development, there's architects, there's people on the business side, there's people, yeah, data scientists, data engineers. It's very diverse. But yeah, I think even though I'm on the business side too, I definitely see hoodies and stuff in the office as well. We're in a bit of a hybrid mode now, as well. So yeah, it's actually been fun going back in the office and in the hybrid mode. And yeah, we see everything from full suits to hoodies and everything now. So it's interesting. The culture's definitely shifted a bit, which is cool to see.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just thinking about going down a hallway and like not knowing what to do. Like, do I wear my hoodie or should I wear a button up? I guess it's just come as you are. Kerry, would you like to let us know what the department work culture and environment is for your team?
Sure. I was just gonna comment, like I'm in a hoodie, and Isabel is in a button up, very proper, and Hanieh too. So
That's a good representation of
there you
business
go.
side and side. That's one of the most
Exactly.
fancy
So
dress in the office today, I think, with a
yeah, I would go like this too. So it's true. It's very relaxed. The culture is very relaxed in this team. We play together and we work hard too. So it's not all fun and games sometimes. We challenge each other. So what I would typically do is, if we're talking about technical details, I would expect my team to know more than I do, because I've told them that if I know more than you do, then we have a problem. You have to know more than I do when it comes to technical stuff, the data. So that, we challenge each other, like, we question. It's very transparent and very open. So, but open in a sense, when you criticize someone's work, you do it respectfully. So it's all about respect. When you talk to someone, you have respect for them. You do not speak down to each other. That I can't tolerate that. Um, it's not right. So, and my manager is the same way. Like, he takes into consideration, any decision that he makes that would impact the team, is not taken lightly. He tries to get consensus, and if he doesn't, then he'll try to persuade you that this is the right thing to do. So always respectfully. And when you do well, you're rewarded well. And if you slack off, there are consequences. So I think that is across the board for RBC, anywhere you go.
Interesting. I definitely can, like, respect is one of my core values. So, who knows? I might apply to RBC after this. I'm just hearing too many. um,
It's a
what?
great place. RBC is, I have to say, the best bank, and then followed by CABC. But RBC is like the number one. Like, I'm not just saying that. I would never go back to TD, and I won't tell you why. But RBC, definitely, this is the place to be. RBC is like the tech of the banking industry. The tech of the if you like technology, RBC is like a tech company.
You heard it here first, folks. Or not first, probably multiple times, because I keep hearing that all the tech jobs are at RBC.
There you go.
I do have another question that really came from like my own question I just asked. What roles typically become available in your department? If we were shopping for roles, what can we expect? And you know, is your team currently hiring? The people want to know. I'll start with you, Kerry. You seem like you're ready to jump in there.
Unfortunately, we're not hiring right now because it's year end. Usually things slow down towards the end of the year, and if we do hire, it would be data scientists and ML engineers. So these are the two focus areas for this team.
Thank you. Hania?
Yeah, my team also is not hiring right now, but Borealis as an organization is. I would refer everyone to go to our career page. We have roles open right now for data analyst, researchers, product manager, lots of exciting things.
And Isabel, are you hiring?
I am, yeah. So
Okay.
my team actually has a role for data engineer and one for a data scientist. So yeah, two roles right now. So yeah, we typically, obviously, I'm on the business side, so um, we do, yeah, but look like kind of, we can hire for people with a very technical background, but also look for people with a little bit of maybe of a business or a kind of diverse background because we are on the business side. So, but obviously still with the kind of technical background as well. So yeah, I have those two roles. My broader team, I believe, also has roles for what we usually call insight analyst, which is a little bit of a blend of more of a business analyst and a data scientist. So, kind of do more advanced analytics, still work in like Python and all of that. But you also interact more with the business and that sort of thing. So I believe we have at least one role and my broader team for that as well. So yeah, we usually, have a couple roles on the go.
Yeah, so Isabel is who you should be hunting down on LinkedIn. I'm joking. There are normal channels to do this. You should probably go through the proper channels, or Rashmi and Ryan are here. I'm sure they've been active in the chat as well, so you can reach out to them. So as a hiring manager, what qualities do you look for in a candidate? So I'm looking for a mix of the technical skills that you look for in your team, but also some of the non-technical skills that you look for. And I'll start with Hanieh.
I think problem solving in a very ambiguous environment. And this kind of goes to what I said before, that, we're very much a research organization, as well as, an engineering organization. But being able to take a very ambiguous problem statement and breaking it down into its components, analyzing each component, being able to take a step back, looking at the problem as a whole. And that's simply because the problems that we're dealing with are not well defined and they're very ambiguous. It would be great to have a clearly defined problem where the only unknown is the answer. So it's kind of granted that obviously the unknown is the answer, but sometimes the unknown is also the problem. How do you formulate the problem in a way that it makes sense? And also just communication skills, because no one's working in a silo. And as I mentioned before, we have teams with very diverse roles. And when you come into Borealis, you're immediately in a very collaborative environment. And so teamwork, the willingness to do teamwork, the ability to communicate your thoughts with other people, these are all very important.
Thank you. I like the problem solving one. It reminds me of your love of whiteboards. So it all makes sense. Kerry, what are you looking for?
Technical skills, undergraduate degree in any technical area like statistics, mathematics, engineering, computer science. So that would be what I would be looking for in your undergrad. So important to put in your resume what your undergrad degree is in and where it's from. And then for graduate studies, similar area, but I'm not so picky on being in the technical area. You could get like I don't know, psychology. I don't know why you would do that, but anyway. But I do look for technical undergraduate degrees. Getting a master's of data science, I don't consider that, because when we develop solutions, we need to go back to the grassroots. I need you to be able to derive for me that formula that you put in to your model. And why did you pick that? You need to be able to explain why you picked the methodology that you picked, and why did you not consider a different methodology. And the process of the interview will there will be a section where you are required to write a technical test. And so assuming you have all your technical background is sound, the next thing would be your personality. You can have the best technical skills in the world and no personality and of poor character, then you will not do well here. So that for both parts, they're considered equally important. You can't have one without the other in order to be successful. And also having some experience in working in a large corporate organization is important. Not critical, but it's important because we've had people whom we've brought on and they did not realize that in a large corporation, there are processes, and these processes are put in place so that things can move along properly. And it's not there so you can circumvent it.
Well, Kerry, always with the real talk, letting you know there are ways that this works. So for those of you with those technical skills, I would start prepping for my technical tests for the interviews. And Isabel, how about you? What do you look for?
Yeah, I would definitely echo some of what's been said already, like, and totally agree on the people who are excited to tackle very ambiguous problems and questions, because basically everything that's sort of everything we have, or not everything, but that's a lot of what people will come to my team for is, we'll come with like kind of an ambiguous business question or even a specific business question. Someone from the business will come to someone on my team, but then the ability to also translate that into the data solution, essentially, like to take a marketing question or a business question and to translate that into how you would implement something with data. That's very valuable. And I would say also, what kind of similar to what Kerry said, a pretty flexible kind of what I look for in terms of what you studied in school. Obviously, I come from a totally different background, geophysics. I think also I do though value people who have studied or worked in kind of the scientific method, because that's how we're going to approach different data problems, as Kerry mentioned, like explain kind of your process and everything and approach it that way. So I think that can be valuable. And I think, if you go to school for specifically data science, I think you can learn a lot of valuable things, but also it is very niche. I don't know. Sometimes when you study science, you get this kind of broader approach to tackling these problems that you might not necessarily get with like a specific degree. So I don't know if there's people in school right now trying to decide between science or data. Sort of getting a bit derailed on that point, but so kind of look for general science, statistics, maybe computer science background. So kind of can be a lot of different areas. Yeah, definitely looking for people who are interested in problem solving. And also just because I come from a bit the business side as well, if people are kind of looking for people who are also excited to do different pieces. So not just, sit and code all day, but maybe meet with stakeholders, do a bit of the business, do some coding, do some of that kind of translation. And also, if you come in as a data science or an engineer, you might get your hands dirty with some like crazy data wrangling or data analysis. It's not always going to be like model building. So definitely looking for people that are, interested in the role that we're hiring for, but also kind of the things that might happen around it as well. So a little bit of a meandering, but hopefully that gives a bit of an idea.
Yeah, it definitely does. So I'm actually going to flip the question now on the three of you. What are the critical components of your leadership style with your team? So I believe whenever I go to an interview that it's a two-way interview, that I'm also interviewing the hiring manager. So if somebody in the audience here was on the other side and they asked about your leadership style, what would you name the critical components of your leadership style being? I'll start with you, Kerry.
Oh boy, I'm trying to think about it.
You
What,
someone else.
so, what you mean? What's my style?
Yeah,
I mean,
your leadership style.
I could jump in and answer if you
Yeah,
want
go for it.
to. Yeah. I would say like I am not someone that who likes being micromanaged, I suppose. So I kind of apply a similar style. I'm not one to micromanage, and I definitely am one to really support when people, do what needs to be done, but also, if you go a bit rogue and kind of come up with a cool thing, then, that totally supportive of that. And I've had best managers are supportive of that in me. So I kind of apply the same, I guess that would be my same style, like not really micromanage, come to me, if you need help, always open door, of course, but, happy to support people to like kind of investigate and also follow what they're interested as well.
So for me, it would be, I would like to think that I don't micromanage. So for the most part, I don't when work gets done. But when things start to slow down and I don't see progress,
Mm.
then I will be sitting down with you at your desk. We'll work through the problem, code and everything together. And for my direct reports, their goal is on relationship management. So they should spend 50% of the time on relationship management to move the needle, to remove roadblocks. And if they're not able to do that, I will step in also. So that's my style. And I do have one-to-ones with everyone on my team. I try to. Not as frequent with the lower levels, like the data scientist and the lead data scientist, but with my directors, I do have one-to-ones, weekly one-to-ones with them. And one-to-ones for me are, I don't set the agenda. They set the agenda. They are the ones who will drive where they want the conversation to go. So that's how I get to know them personally. And that's important to me and it's important to them too. So we talk about anything under the sun. When it comes to work stuff, it doesn't have to be for the one-to-one. You can talk to me at any time. So door is completely open. And if you have a problem, come prepared with a recommended solution or solutions. Don't just come to me with a problem.
All those sound like similar things that I've heard in my past lives, and it seems very supportive as well. Hanieh, do you want to let us know about your leadership style?
Yeah, I think the best type of leadership style is one in which you're serving the people that you're working with. So top of mind for me is always, how do I help my team grow? Um, and there's different components of that, because the team really grows when projects succeed, and um, then there's also just personal growth outside of what a direct report is doing for a project. Maybe there's special skill set that they wish to improve on. Maybe there are soft skills that they wish to improve on. And so when you're always framing it in terms of what can I do to help this person succeed, you realize that you really need to create an open environment in which they tell you about their dreams in the first place. And so just building that relationship of trust is super important, so that they can tell you, these are what I dream and envision myself doing. These are the areas that I feel that, maybe they're my development areas. Without knowing that, you really can't help anyone. Um, I actually really like that Kerry talked about one-on-ones. Typical one-on-one for me looks like, all right, half an hour. Let's see what to go through. First, I ask them if there is anything urgent on their mind, or if there is anything that needs, quick prompts or handling. And if that's not the case, then I go through their questions. So any kind of questions that they come prepared with, we go through that. And honestly, sometimes they're so busy working on their projects that they don't come prepared to a one-on-one. And for me, that's okay. Because I usually go in with my own list of agenda items. And so if they come in not saying that, hey, I've been really busy this week, I didn't have time to prepare, I kind of introduce an item and say, okay, how about this aspect of software engineering, or how about this aspect of career growth? And then we would just like start a discussion about that. And I found that to be particularly helpful in just, the manager being active in terms of contributing agenda items as well.
Mhm. I love that approach. So I do see some questions in the chat, but before I get to the questions, I wanted to ask if there was any advice you want to give to the room for those who are looking to network, find a new role, or just learn more about RBC. What would it be? And I'm looking for one piece of advice. I know you could go on forever and ever with the advice, but if you could give one piece of advice, what would it be? And I'm choosing Kerry first.
Be honest. When you apply for a role, know what your skill sets are. Don't sugarcoat anything. If you don't know it, you don't know it.
Okay. Hanieh.
On a very different note, I would refer people to the Borealis blog. The blog has a wealth of information, and before I joined, I read a number of articles and really just got acquainted with the culture and how things are done, as well as advancements and improvements that Borealis makes. Lots of interesting content there, so definitely check out the blog.
Yes, and I also second the blog. I often go back to the Respect AI section if you're interested in that. And Isabel.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually like sessions like this are super cool because, so yeah, I guess everybody's already doing the thing. I would recommend coming here. Well, just yeah, these type of sessions. I mean, obviously RBC, it's a very large organization, so it can be kind of hard to crack in. Like, it's big organization. There can be processes. So, I think coming to something these kind of sessions where you can more put like a face to the organization and kind of chat with specific people. I think, yeah, if you're looking to kind of break into this, I think that's super valuable.
Okay, great. Now I have some of my team members on standby. Would you mind raising the first question for us? Let's see what we got. So the question is, can we apply for entry-level jobs and gain experience over time at RBC? Do you check for prior experience? Anyone can take this question.
I
So
can take that. We have a number of recent grads at Borealis. So the answer to that is yes, absolutely. Whether you're a recent grad, or it might be that you have experience, but it's in a different area. As long as you have the technical skill set that we're looking for, yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, we do tend to hire people with a few more years of experience, but we do have some recent grads or a year kind of experience as well. So typically that would be, I guess, someone probably with a master's. So someone straight out of university, maybe not, but if you have like a master's, straight out of a master's, and maybe a year of experience, we do that. I also would say put a plug in for some of the um, co-op and other programs like Amplify, which is a cool program actually. Like was on, I forgot what they call the panel of Amplify last year, which is a kind of, if you look up RBC Amplified, is like a cool new grad and student program. So yeah, I think there's a couple kind of both co-op and new grad programs that run at the broader organization as well.
Yeah,
So
actually, to Isabel's point. Oh, sorry, Kerry. Just wanted to add one quick thing to Isabel's point. Yeah, actually, a lot of our recent grads do have prior internship experience, and a lot of them have, in fact, internships at Borealis. So we have a lot of returning interns. So that internship and co-op also does count as experience. Sorry, Kerry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we do take fresh graduates, but understand that this is very, very competitive, right? So if there are, if both two people come with the same skill set, and one has more experience than the other, they get the advantage. So just understand that part.
Definitely. So I have another question. What would you recommend for someone with an engineering background? It came up and it left. What would you recommend for someone with an engineering background in healthcare, biopharma, desiring to move into the finance sector? I'm fascinated with the work with the world. It's been a long day. I'm fascinated with the world of data science, but it is also overwhelming to think about a change as I've worked for a decade in a different sector. Their skill sets are engineering, leadership, project, and program management. Who wants to tackle this one?
I guess I could jump in because I did do this. I guess I came from a slightly more related sector, but I think it's sort of, I guess I first thought about what, I don't know, try to generalize my skills as much as possible. So I think if you're trying to break into data science, breaking it down into kind of, there's statistics, there's data wrangling, there's coding, there's like business translation kind of work as well. So I think it's sort of like what areas do you already have of those and what can you like build up a little bit. So even like in my background, I mean, most data scientists use Python, say at the bank, and I'd only ever learned MATLAB before I came here, like kind of use that in school. But I think, as long as you have that sort of, it was like I knew Spanish and then I could learn French and Italian, etc. So you can kind of make that leap. Yeah, and I would also say, and yeah, it can sometimes feel like I think a step back if you have experience to do something like a co-op or an internship, but I did like an internship and that was super valuable too because I could test like, does this even fit? So I think if you can kind of leverage some of your skills, maybe build up some of the coding if you don't have that, and then kind of parlay that into an internship so you can also see like, is this for me without committing fully to something.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's definitely great advice. And doing like a skills map of like what you have
Yeah.
versus what you need for the role will also increase your confidence of like what you can transfer and also let you know what skills you need to develop.
Yeah,
Can I have
exactly.
the next question, please? I currently work in problem management. Do you have problem management roles in your team? And would that skill set be helpful in a data analyst, data scientist role? Now, I personally have never heard of problem management, but maybe one of you have.
I have not heard of that. I guess, yeah, I don't know if someone else wants to. I haven't heard of that, but I do. We do have diverse skill sets like on my team. There's data scientists, there's data engineers. There's also people that are doing like business strategy and sometimes data work, like kind of strategy. We've even talked about people who have background in sort of taxonomy and language and that sort of thing is like kind of, and the intersection of that with data and kind of pairing those as well be like an interesting skill set to bring on. So I don't know much about problem management, but there are sometimes interesting skill sets like it sounds like that pair I think well with data. Especially I know and you talked about a little bit beforehand about how we have so much data sometimes, like how do you leverage that in different new ways. So sometimes if you have a different background it kind of brings a new lens. But and I don't know, jump in whether maybe I'm talking too much.
Yeah, I would think maybe problem management is related, should be related to problem solving. So, Hania, do you want to address that one?
I as well have no idea what problem manager is. I can maybe make an assumption. Maybe it's hinting at conflict management. I don't know. Beyond a guess, I really don't know what that is.
Kerry, any ideas?
No. I don't know what problem management is. We
Um,
manage problems daily here. We all, we all have problems
That's a
coming
great
up.
sign. Can I have the next question, please? Are there any job shadowing opportunities for someone could see what a day in a life is like?
I
We
think
do
job
have
shadowing is probably not something that the bank will typically do because we handle a lot of very sensitive data. So unless you work for RBC, job shadowing is not something that we can entertain.
Yeah, we don't. We also don't have job shadowing, but we do have something that might address that. Borealis has a series of panels, podcasts. Not sure what they are categorized as on LinkedIn, where it's exactly titled, a day in the life of a product manager at Borealis, or a day in the life of a researcher at Borealis. Um, I tuned into a number of these before I joined the company, and I found it very helpful to just hear from people who are in the role, what their role entails and what day-to-day life for them is like. So definitely suggest, if you follow Borealis on LinkedIn, you'll probably get the notification when these events become available.
Okay, perfect. Team, can I have the next question, please? We got 3 more minutes for this portion of the event. I'm currently seeking career opportunities in data science space, preferably as a senior data analyst. I graduated from Queen's University Masters of Management Analytics and have more than 9 years of banking experience. This sounds like a pitch. Does anyone want to take this one on?
Yeah, I think Ryan and Rashmi dropped their emails at LinkedIn. Or yeah, I mean that sounds interesting for some of my roles. So definitely reach out to them. I think if senior data analyst sounds similar to what I had mentioned, we call like insight analysts. So um, yeah, definitely reach out to them.
Okay, perfect. Is there any other questions, team, to put up? Perfect. So not sure where to put that info, but no, problem management is not about conflict resolution. It's about determining the causes of service interruptions, trend analysis, and pattern identification. Oh, that's interesting. Do any of you have any comments on where someone with these type of skills could fit into your teams?
I think there's whole teams at the bank that manage service interruptions do exactly that.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of the name of the team.
AI ops.
Yeah, the ops, essentially
Yeah.
operations teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
who that's like their core functionality is to make sure online banking isn't down for even a couple seconds, right? So, yeah, that's definitely fits with that for sure.
And would those skills be applicable or transferable to a data analyst role? I believe that was the original question.
That is a data science role, actually, if you think about it. Predicting incidents before it happens and anomaly detection.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Okay, perfect. And the next one is, which I think is a big one ever since we named the technical skills we were looking for, right? Is would you consider hiring a data science bootcamp graduate, or is a master's or undergrad more valued?
For me, your undergrad. I'll tell you why. Undergrad degrees are more focused on the theory. Master's degrees are focused on the application. Unless you know the theory underlying the methodology, the application will not be very meaningful because you can throw data into a methodology and thinking that you have the best model when you are not clear as to why it is giving you the results it's giving you. So it ties back to explainability too. And oftentimes when people do that, data scientists, like junior data scientists, they play around because open packages, there are so many open package in the market. You can just pick up something, throw data in, and it spits out some result. But you don't know why it's doing what it's doing. Why are you getting those results? You don't know if it's overfitted, and you don't know why it's overfitting. So all these things goes will require you to go back to the fundamentals. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say I would if it were me, I would choose a master's. Like if you're deciding between a boot camp and a master's, I would choose a master's and say stats or something like that. Yeah, I think my experience with I guess I don't have too much experience with the boot camp. I'm sure with like some of them are much better than others, and there's variations. But I often think of them similar to some of the Kaggle questions, I guess, where you're presented with very clean, clear questions and very clean and clear data. And so, yeah, whereas like in a master's, you might have more messier problems that you're dealing with and theoretical problems and all of that. And you're kind of learning how to apply different theories. I don't know. It's sort of like if, you're only dealing with very clean data, then, you're training on a treadmill and then you go to run a marathon on like a beach in a snowstorm. So it's like you have some of the skills, but it's just like a way different area when like you sort of come into the practical application of like actual data and it's so much messier. So there's, I think, something you get, especially if you do a master's with like a thesis and you have to kind of formulate these problems and deal with them and come to a conclusion. I think that more mimics what we do day to day than just kind of like having a nice data set and tackling it and applying it. But that's sort of for my role too. Like it may be more specific to being on more of a business side. So.
I think having a graduate degree will get you further. Yes, there is a lot of value in graduate degrees, but make sure your undergrad complements it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I want to hear from you because I know you're at Borealis, and I see Borealis as just a place with a whole bunch of smart people. So are they all PhDs? What's going on over there?
No, I mean, not everyone is a PhD, but definitely a very high concentration, much more than other places that I've worked at. So because I'm new, I've been there for about 3 months. I haven't really gone into the hiring loop. But I've done a lot of interviews at past companies. And I think my preference is to focus more on what that person has learned and focus less on where is the source of what they've learned. In my intro, I mentioned myself that my undergrad was, in fact, not in computer science. And so I can imagine there are a lot of people who might study something and then find their path later on. And so I would really focus on, do you have the right problem solving mentality that we need? Do you have the right skill set that we need? And, we would put that to the test with a problem. Here's an actual problem. How would you solve it? Talk through it, actually code, talk about trade-offs that you might make in coming up with a solution. So I think I would probably focus on these kind of things rather than like, did you make the right decision in choosing an undergraduate degree or not? Because like I myself, I had a change in life later on. And so I would want to make sure that I would be inclusive to other people who might have had the same experience.
Different perspectives, but that's just to show you the variety across the bank. Can I have the
That's
next
right,
question, please? I have 10 years experience as a data analyst, mainly reporting and some data modeling with undergrad and postgrad in statistics and economics. However, I do not have Canadian experience as I'm new to Canada. Will I be considered in their skill set? SQL, Power BI, ClickView. So I guess this question is asking if Canadian experience is essential in order to land a role. Anyone want to take this one? This one might be a better question for some of the recruiters in the chat.
Yeah, if they want to jump in, I would say generally, yes, that would be considered. I would say Canadian experience wouldn't be required, but that would be my thought. I think we have, at least on my team, I know of a lot of people who have experience in a lot of different places of the world. So, but yeah, might be something the recruiters can weigh in a bit more on too.
Okay, perfect. Next question. What would you advise for someone looking for a career pivot from a non-computer science background to a data analyst, data scientist background? Would you consider a self-taught data analyst scientist or look for an internship as well?
I think a data analyst and a data scientist are very, very different roles. So it really depends on what you're looking for. A data analyst would be a little less technical. A data scientist is a scientist, literally a scientist. So it depends on what you want.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think, yeah, I definitely want to, I guess, combine two things that Hanieh and Kerry said before. Like, yeah, definitely um, want to consider as many diverse backgrounds of different people that come from different skills and different backgrounds in hiring, while also what Kerry said about it being very competitive for roles. So yeah, there is this component of I think if you want to go the purely self-taught route, I think obviously you can have a lot of super important skills, but I think just thinking about how to convey those, how you will convey those to someone who may just be sifting through resumes or looking at a lot of resumes. So I think just from a practical standpoint, definitely something I would consider. But I think it's sort of if I was thinking about my career, it's sort of like how will I convey that. An internship obviously is a clearer, specific way to convey it than self-taught. It's sometimes difficult to kind of put that clearly, if that makes sense. Krishan, I think you're on mute if you're.
I think I muted myself by accident. Thought I was unmuting myself. So that concludes our panel. So we're going to move over to networking. Some of our experts will be over there. Thank you so much for being a part of the panel. We'll move over to networking. We do have some prompt questions for you. The way networking works, it's you get to spend 3 minutes with each person that you meet, and then we'll come back here for quick closing. But thank you, Kerry, Isabel, and Hanieh. And we'll see you in the networking.
Thanks, Kishana.